You made a decision today that you think was totally rational. It was not. And the scary part is, you had no idea. Every single day, your brain is playing tricks on you. It is making choices for you before you even realize it. It is judging people, skipping steps, and cutting corners. And it does all of this in under a second. Daniel Kahneman spent his entire life studying this. He won a Nobel Prize for it. And what he found will genuinely make you question every decision you have ever made. Welcome to Mind Fuel. Today we are breaking down Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand your own brain better than most people ever will. Here is what we are covering. You will learn why your gut feeling is not as reliable as you think. You will discover the invisible force that makes you spin more, fear more, and judge faster than you should. You will hear about a real study where judges made life-changing decisions based on something as random as lunch. And later in this video, I will reveal the one insight from this book that changed the way I see literally everything. This is not just theory. This is practical. This is life-changing. And this applies to you right now, today. Let us get into it. Lesson 1. Your brain has two personalities, and one of them is dangerous. Imagine you are driving on an empty highway. Cruise control on, music playing. Your brain is basically on autopilot. You are not thinking. You are just going. Now imagine a truck suddenly swerves into your lane. Everything changes. Your hands grip the wheel. Your eyes lock in. Your brain switches on like a floodlight. That is the difference between System 1 and System 2. System 1 is your autopilot. It is fast. It is automatic. It runs all day, every day, without you asking it to. It is what makes you read these words without sounding them out. It is what makes you flinch when someone throws something at your face. It requires almost zero effort. System 2 is your manual mode. It is slow. It is deliberate. It kicks in when you are doing a math problem or making a big decision. It takes real effort. And here is the thing. It gets tired. Most people think their brain is always thinking clearly. But actually, your brain spends most of its time in System 1. Fast, automatic, and completely unconscious. Here is what nobody tells you. System 1 is running your life way more than you know. Think about the last time you bought something on impulse. That was System 1. Think about the last time you judged someone the moment they walked into the room. That was System 1. Think about the last time you made a decision and then came up with reasons to justify it later. That was System 1 making the call and System 2 writing the story. Your autopilot is in charge. And it has some serious blind spots. Here is your actionable takeaway from this lesson. When you are about to make a decision that actually matters, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I thinking this through or am I just reacting? That pause is you switching from System 1 to System 2. That pause is the difference between a decision and a reflex. And once you understand these two systems, you start to notice something even more unsettling. Your brain is not just fast. It is lazy. And that laziness has a name. Lesson 2. Your brain is incredibly lazy, and it loves easy answers. Here's a quick question. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people say 10 cents. Go ahead. Think about it. The answer is actually 5 cents. If the ball costs 5 cents and the bat costs $1 more, the bat costs $1.05. Together, that is $1.10. Most people get this wrong. Not because they are not smart, but because System 1 jumped in with a fast, easy answer. And System 2 just went along with it without checking. Kahneman calls this cognitive ease. Your brain loves things that are familiar, things that are simple, things that feel right. And when something feels easy, your brain assumes it must be correct. Here's the counterintuitive part. The harder something is to process, the more carefully your brain actually thinks about it. When things feel easy, you get lazy. When things feel hard, you pay attention. Most people think a clear, confident feeling means they are right. But actually, that confidence might just mean your brain stopped checking. There was a study where researchers gave people logic puzzles printed in a light, hard-to-read font. The people who got the blurry version actually got more answers right. Why? Because the difficulty forced their System 2 to wake up and actually engage. Here is what nobody tells you. Your brain will sacrifice accuracy for speed every single time, unless you force it to slow down. Here is your actionable takeaway. When something feels obviously true, that is exactly when you should question it the most. The easier an answer feels, the more likely your brain just handed it to you without checking. Ask one more question. Take one more second. That is where the truth hides. But cognitive laziness is not the only trap. There is another bias that is so powerful, it shows up in hospitals, courtrooms, and salary negotiations. And most people do not even realize it is happening. Lesson 3. The invisible number that controls every decision you make. Let me tell you about a real experiment. Kahneman and his colleague Amos Tversky set up a spinning wheel. The wheel could only land on 10 or 65. It was completely random. Then they asked people a simple question. What percentage of African countries are in the United Nations? Here is the strange part. People who spun a high number gave higher estimates. People who spun a low number gave lower estimates. The random number on the wheel actually changed what they thought the answer was. That is anchoring. And it is one of the most powerful forces inside your mind. An anchor is the first number you hear, the first price you see, the first offer on the table. And once that anchor lands in your brain, everything else gets measured against it. Think about the last time you went shopping and saw a product marked down from $200 to $80. You felt like you were getting a great deal. But here's the thing. You do not actually know if $80 is fair. You are just comparing it to the anchor. The $200 price tag was probably made up. Now let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was negotiating her first salary at a new job. She was nervous. She had done the research. She knew the market rate, but when the interviewer asked her what she was expecting, she gave a conservative number. She did not want to seem greedy. The interviewer countered lower. Sarah accepted. She felt okay about it. 3 months later, she found out a colleague doing the same job was making $15,000 more. He had anchored high in his negotiation. Sarah had anchored low. And the entire conversation had played out from those first numbers. Here is what nobody tells you. The first number in any negotiation or conversation shapes everything that comes after it. Whoever puts out the anchor first holds enormous power. Most people think they are making decisions based on logic, but actually they are just adjusting from wherever the anchor dropped. Here is your actionable takeaway. Before any negotiation, any big purchase, any salary conversation, set your own anchor first. And make it higher than you think is reasonable. Research shows that higher anchors lead to better outcomes, even when everyone at the table knows about anchoring. It is that powerful. And speaking of powerful forces that shape your decisions, what if I told you that losing something hurts you twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good? Lesson 4. Losing feels twice as bad as winning feels good. Think about this. Someone offers you a coin flip. Heads, you win $100. Tails, you lose $100. Perfectly fair, right? 50-50. Most people say no. They will not take that bet. Why? Because psychologically, losing that $100 would feel about twice as painful as winning $100 would feel good. The math is equal, but the emotional weight is not. Kahneman calls this loss aversion. And it is everywhere. It is why you hold on to a bad investment hoping it will recover instead of cutting your losses. It is why you stay in a job you hate because leaving feels like giving something up. It is why companies use free trials. Once you have something, losing it feels like a threat. Here is a real example from the world of professional golf. Researchers analyzed thousands of PGA Tour shots and found something shocking. Players were significantly more accurate when putting to save par than when putting to make birdie. The score difference was identical, but saving par felt like avoiding a loss. Making birdie felt like gaining something, and players subconsciously tried harder to avoid the loss. These are elite professional athletes, and loss aversion was still bending their performance. Now here is what this means for you. Every time you avoid doing something because of what you might lose, ask yourself, am I making this decision based on real logic? Or am I just running from the pain of losing? Here is what nobody tells you. Most of the risks you are avoiding in life are not actually that dangerous. You are just wired to feel them as threats. Your brain is doing its job, but its job was designed for survival in the wild, not for building a great life in the modern world. Here is your actionable takeaway you can use today. The next time you hesitate on a decision because of what you might lose, flip it. Ask yourself, what will I lose if I do not do this? Sometimes the real loss is the one you never saw coming. The opportunity you passed on. The person you never called back. The business you never started. Loss aversion is the reason so many people play it safe and end up exactly where they never wanted to be. And if you think that is surprising, wait until you hear what Kahneman discovered about the people we trust most to make fair, rational decisions. Judges, doctors, experts, people who are supposed to be immune to bias. Because what he found about them will completely change how you see authority. There is a study that Kahneman references that should genuinely disturb you. Researchers followed 8 Israeli judges over 10 months. These were experienced, respected judges, people who decided whether prisoners got parole or stayed behind bars. Serious decisions. Life-altering decisions. And what they found was this. In the morning, right after breakfast, judges approved parole about 65% of the time. As the day went on and they got hungrier and more tired, that number dropped. Right before a meal break, approvals were close to 0%. After the break, the number jumped back up to 65%. The same case, the same file, the same prisoner. Different outcome, depending on whether the judge had eaten. That is not a small thing. That is someone's freedom being decided by a sandwich. Lesson 5. Even experts are fooled by their own brains. We are taught to trust experts. Doctors, judges, financial advisors, experienced professionals. We assume their years of training protect them from the biases that catch the rest of us. Here is what nobody tells you. Expertise does not eliminate bias. It just hides it better. Kahneman spent years studying expert predictions, stock analysts, political forecasters, wine critics, medical professionals. And what he found over and over again was this. Expert predictions in complex fields are often barely better than random chance. Sometimes they are worse. There was a famous study where Kahneman analyzed the performance of 25 financial advisors over 8 years. He expected to find that the best advisors consistently outperformed the worst. That skill would show up over time. The correlation between one year's rankings and the next was essentially zero. The advisors who did well one year were not the same advisors who did well the next year. It was largely luck. But every single one of them believed deeply that they had skill. They were paid as if they had skill. They acted with complete confidence. That gap between confidence and accuracy is one of the most dangerous things in the world. Most people think confident people must know what they are talking about. But actually, confidence and competence are two completely different things. And your brain treats them as the same. Think about the last time someone gave you advice with total certainty. You probably believed them more because of how sure they sounded. That is your System 1 making a judgment. Confident tone equals trustworthy person. But confidence is easy to fake, even accidentally. Here is your actionable takeaway. When someone gives you advice with total confidence, especially on complex topics, ask one question. What is your track record? Not their credentials, not how they sound, their actual results over time. That one question cuts through more noise than almost anything else. Because here is the truth. The world rewards people who sound certain. But the wisest people Kahneman ever studied were the ones who knew exactly how uncertain everything really was. And speaking of uncertainty, there is one mental trap that causes more bad decisions than almost any other. It is the reason people start projects they should never finish. It is the reason people throw good money after bad. And it has a name. Lesson 6. The trap that keeps you stuck long after you should have walked away. Meet James. James had been working on his startup for 2 years. He had put in $80,000 of his own savings. He had sacrificed weekends, relationships, and sleep. The product was not working. The market was not responding. Every advisor he trusted was telling him the same thing. It is time to pivot or stop. But James could not stop because he had already put in so much. If he stopped now, all of that would be wasted. So he kept going. He put in another $30,000, another 6 months. More sacrifices, more losses. This is the sunk cost fallacy. And it is one of the most brutal traps in all of human decision-making. A sunk cost is money, time, or energy you have already spent and cannot get back. Logic says those costs should be irrelevant to your next decision. What matters is what happens from here. But your brain does not work that way. Your brain sees all that invested effort and feels like walking away would make it meaningless. So you stay. You keep pouring in. You let the past hold your future hostage. Most people think quitting means failing, but actually sometimes quitting is the smartest, bravest thing you can do. Kahneman explains this through loss aversion. Stopping feels like a loss. Continuing feels like you still have a chance. So even when the math clearly says stop, your emotional brain screams keep going. Here is what nobody tells you. The time and money you already spent are gone whether you continue or not. The only question is whether you spend more. The past does not change based on what you do today. Here is your actionable takeaway. Once a week, look at the things you are still doing out of habit, guilt, or past investment. The job you hate. The project that is going nowhere. The relationship that is draining you. Ask honestly. If I was starting fresh today with no history, would I choose this? If the answer is no, that is your system 2 speaking clearly. Listen to it. The sunk cost fallacy keeps millions of people stuck in lives they never actually chose. They are just too invested in the old version to build the new one. And if you think that is heavy, wait until you hear how your brain constructs stories from almost nothing, and why those stories feel more real to you than actual facts. Lesson 7. Your brain is a story machine, and it never stops spinning. Here is something wild. Read these 2 words. Bananas. Vomit. You probably felt something. Maybe a slight disgust. Maybe your face changed. Maybe your stomach moved a little. Nothing happened. Those were just words on a screen. But your brain immediately created a story, a connection, a cause and effect. And your body responded to a story that was never real. Kahneman calls this the associative machine. Your brain is constantly linking things together, building narratives, and making sense of random information. It does not matter if the connection is real. Your brain will make one up. This leads to something called the halo effect. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The halo effect is when one positive thing about a person makes you assume everything else about them is positive too. Think about someone you found attractive when you first met them. You probably also thought they were smarter, funnier, and more trustworthy than a stranger you found less attractive. You had no evidence. Your brain just ran the story. Good looking equals good person. Now think about job interviews. Kahneman points to research showing that interviewers form a strong impression of a candidate within the first few seconds. The rest of the interview is often just confirmation. The interviewer spends 45 minutes looking for reasons to justify what they already decided in the first 10 seconds. And here's the most uncomfortable part. This happens to you too. Right now, today, when you meet someone who reminds you of a person you trust, you automatically trust them more. When a company has a beautiful website, you assume their product is better. When a speaker is well-dressed and confident, you assume they are more qualified. Here is what nobody tells you. Your brain is writing a story about everything and everyone around you. And it writes fast. It fills in the blanks. It connects dots that may not actually connect. And then it hands you that story as if it is the truth. Here is your actionable takeaway. When you form a strong first impression of someone, good or bad, deliberately look for one piece of evidence that contradicts it. Just one. That small act forces your brain out of autopilot. It slows the story machine down, and it opens the door to seeing people more accurately. Because the truth is, most of the judgments you make about people, products, and situations are not based on full information. They are based on the first chapter of a story your brain started writing before you even knew it. And that brings us to the insight that ties this entire book together. The one idea Kahneman spent decades building toward. The secret that changes how you see success, happiness, and the meaning of your own life. Lesson 8. There are 2 versions of you, and they want completely different things. Here's a question. Imagine you go on an incredible 2-week vacation. Best trip of your life, but at the very end, on the last day, something mildly unpleasant happens. Nothing serious, just annoying. A long delay at the airport. A small argument. Now, when you think back on that vacation, how do you feel about it? Studies show the ending colors everything. The 2 weeks of joy get slightly dimmed by that last bad moment. And this reveals something profound about how memory works. Kahneman discovered that there are 2 very different versions of you experiencing your life at any moment. The first is your experiencing self. This is you right now, in this moment, feeling what you feel. The warmth of good food. The stress of a deadline. The joy of a great conversation. This version of you lives in the present. The second is your remembering self. This is the version of you that looks back and creates the story of your life. It decides whether something was good or bad. It is the one you listen to when you make decisions. Here is the twist. These two selves do not always agree, and your remembering self almost always wins. Kahneman ran an experiment involving a painful medical procedure. Patients experienced varying levels of discomfort over different lengths of time. Some had shorter procedures that ended on a high pain moment. Others had longer procedures that faded to lower pain at the end. The patients with the longer procedures but ending on lower pain actually remembered the experience as less unpleasant, even though they had objectively experienced more total pain. Your remembering self judges by the peak moment and the ending, not by the total experience. This changes everything. It means the most important moment of any experience is not the middle. It is how it ends. It means your happiest memories are not necessarily your happiest moments. It means the way a relationship ends will shape how you remember everything that came before it. Most people build their lives to optimize for the experiencing self. More pleasure, less pain, right now. But their remembering self is the one that writes the story they carry forever. Here is what nobody tells you. You are not one person. You are two. And they are in a constant quiet conflict. When you choose comfort over growth, that is your experiencing self winning. When you do something hard and meaningful, that is a gift to your remembering self. The secret is learning which one to listen to and when. Here is your actionable takeaway. Think about something important in your life right now. A relationship, a project, a goal. Ask yourself which self you are optimizing for. Are you making this easier on the you of today? Or are you building a story the you of tomorrow will be proud of? That question alone is worth the entire book. And that is the final piece of Kahneman's life work. The reason this book has sold millions of copies across every country in the world. The reason CEOs and doctors and presidents have studied it. Because you now know that your brain has two systems, and one of them is running on autopilot. You know that anchoring is shaping every negotiation and purchase you make. You know that loss aversion is keeping you stuck in places you should have left long ago. You know that experts are not immune to bias. You know that the sunk cost trap is one of the most expensive mental habits a human being can have. You know that your brain is a story machine writing narratives in real time. And you know that there are two versions of you, both fighting for the wheel. This changes everything about how you make decisions. Here is the real takeaway from thinking fast and slow. You cannot eliminate your biases. Kahneman himself says that. Even writing this book did not make him immune. But awareness is power. When you know the traps, you can catch yourself mid-fall. When you understand the systems, you can choose which one to trust. The smartest people in the world are not the ones who think the fastest. They are the ones who know when to slow down. So the next time you are about to make a big decision, feel a surge of confidence, judge someone instantly, or walk away from something because it scares you, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, which system is speaking right now? Is this system 1 firing off a reflex? Or is this system 2 actually thinking it through? That pause is everything. If this video gave you one new way to see yourself and the world, share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment below and tell me, which bias hit you the hardest today? Because I read every single one. And if you want more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a Mind Fuel drop. Your brain is powerful. Now you know how it actually works. Go use that.